All right, so it's going to seem like we're skipping back a little bit here because we're going to go to day 9 now when you just finished up like day 15. But this group of lessons kind of goes together better, so that's why I skipped it the first time. This one is about percents and ratios. Percents aren't actually numbers, percents mean out of or part of 100. So 24% really means 24 out of 100, which could be reduced to something like 6 over 25. I talked to you in one of the other videos about how to convert a percent to a decimal and then back and forth. So to convert a percent to a decimal, remember you move the decimal um, to the left 2 positions and you get rid of the percent sign. So if I have 24%, it becomes 0.24. In order to do anything with a percent, you have to change it into a decimal. So that way you can do the multiplication or division or addition or any of the other stuff. All right. If you then want to change that decimal to a fraction, you can, and we'll talk later on how to do that. But to go from a decimal to a percent, you move to the right. So you're going the opposite way. So something like 0.325 would become 32.5%. All right. Remember, percent is a piece of the whole, of the total. All right. It's a part. To do calculations with percent, you need to convert the percent to a decimal or a fraction, whichever is easier given the questions, and then do your operations. All right. Keep the decimals in the correct place when you add and subtract and multiply and divide. You'll just use your calculator for doing those things, so that's not necessarily something super important. All right. So here are some ways that the ACT uses percents. They talk about sales price or discounts, commission price, dealing with polls and surveys, and then studies with samples where they talk about like this many students like this many students like that kind of thing. All right. Another way to deal with this is a ratio. A ratio is just a comparison between two numbers, and it can be two or more numbers. With percent, it's two numbers. It's some value and 100, or the total. All right. So ratios can be expressed in two ways. One is a fraction. If you have two numbers, you take the part divided by the whole, or we use this colon, which is just the dot dot, or two. And that's when you're comparing a part to a part. When you're talking about it, it's a little bit confusing, but it's what you want, which you're in favor of, versus what you're against. All right, so here's an example of the fraction one. We have 18 out of 27 students polled prefer pizza over chicken nuggets. So that would be 18 over 27, which would be 2/3. So then if you have to interpret that, you would say 2 out of every 3 students prefer pizza over chicken nuggets. If you were writing this as a ratio, and you had 2 to 1, or like that, that's how you read that with the colon, 2 to 1 or 2 to 1. You would say of the students polled, pizza is preferred 2 to 1. For every 2 students that prefer pizza, 1 student prefers chicken. So basically, what you're doing to compare this way is there are 3 total students, 2 of them like pizza, which means 1 of them likes chicken. So you're just subtracting those values. All right. So again, you see that here. They're doing it the other way. They're showing you that the addition, 2 to 1 becomes 3 total. All right. So if you see it, you can reduce it. Same thing if you have multiples. So if you have like 2 to 6 to 10, that could be reduced to 1 to 3 to 5, or it could be increased as 8 to 24 to 40. This is when you break something into 3 parts. And so then the ACT example question they give you here is actually one where you have to break something into 3 parts. So it says Joe cut a 40-foot long board into 3 pieces. The ratio of the lengths of the 3 pieces is 5 to 6 to 9. So what is the length to the nearest foot of the longest piece? So we have a couple of different ways of doing this. All right, the first one here, I'm going to draw a picture. So I drew out my whole board here, and I know that The different ratios they give me adds up to 20. So 9 is a little less than halfway. So I found about the halfway part of my board, and I made my mark for 9 just short of that. And then I found my halfway part of my other half, which would have been 10, to give me the 5. And then the 6 is whatever gets that hangover into the next piece. All right. So there's that, but that wasn't really super helpful. When I looked at it, I saw that this total only gives me 20, but my board was actually 40 feet. So since my board was twice as long, I multiplied my longest piece here, which is what we were looking for, by 2. Another way to do it is to make the ratio a fraction. All right, so the part we want is the longest piece, which was 9. Our total was 20, so we would make it a part over the whole, which is 9 over 20, and then multiply that by the total board length, which we had, which was 40 feet. So it gives us a value of 18, which is C. All right. Hopefully this helps out with dealing with some of those things that involve multiple steps, but also involve some of those what we would consider like basic math kind of things that the ACT likes to kind of trick you up and throw in there to do multiple things with.